While Stan Edgar and Victoria Newman were plotting to take my wife Homelander away from me, me and Lady Homelander made Soldier Boy's twin brother Quinn a part of the team, and I knew since Quinn was on the team that Soldier Boy would join our team, and I already knew that Stan Edgar and Victoria Newman were plotting against me, so I teleported beside them and I erased all their memories involving the plans to kill Homelander and have me marry his daughter Victoria Newman, and then me and Lady Homelander went to confront the people that raised her like a lab rat, and it went exactly like the original storyline, except when the dumb nurse tried to say it was Homelander's fault because he accidentally killed the woman she was born from. I got angry and I said, "Stop right there, you dumbass, you don't say another word." I knew what you were going to say. You were going to try to say it was her fault when you and everyone knows it wasn't her fault. The audacity is unbelievable. I can't believe you were going to try to pin all your illegal experiments on her. What you did was cruel experiments on a child that never had a normal childhood because of people like you. It's just a fucking excuse for you to do wrong. And then she started to speak and I said, "Don't you fucking speak, okay? You annoy me the most. You gave a child superpowers and you expect her not to make mistakes. It wasn't her fault, it was your fault." And she said, "You won't kill me, Desmond Doss. I know who you are. You're a real war hero and you're not a murderer. In fact, you're the most successful VOD experiment in history. You're the perfect soldier and you have powers far surpassing any of our other experiments. You have godlike powers. You don't have to do what she wants." And then I said, "See, that's where you're wrong. I would do anything for her and you're not innocent. You sick bastards experimented on innocent children and you expected them not to accidentally hurt people. You're a bunch of fucking idiots. I'm going to make you all suffer." And then I asked Homelander, "What did you want me to do, my love? Do you want me to kill them for you?" And then she said, "Wait a minute, I want to kill them myself and I want to make her suffer." And then she said, "Help me please." And then I helped Homelander rip all those terrible doctors and scientists to pieces, and then I found out one of the male doctors sexually molested her when he caught her masturbating, and then I made him suffer, and so did Homelander, and I had no reaction after I killed them. In fact, I felt like I did the world a service. And then she locked that female doctor or nurse or whatever in that room and she welded it shut and threw all their body parts in there with her. And then as we went up in the elevator I watched Homelander smile and I asked her, "Baby, are you okay?" And then she said, "Yes, I feel better." And then I came up behind her and I kissed her on the cheek and I said, "Everything will be okay, I promise." And then she started crying and I said, "Your mother is at the Vought Tower. She goes by the name Stormfront now and she's your mother and her original name was Clara Vought, and I actually dated her back in the day before her and Soldier Boy became a sort of couple, just like when me and Maeve dated for a little bit right before you and I got married." And then Homelander said, "Yes, I actually hated when you were dating Maeve and I wanted to kill Maeve, but I also wanted you to be happy. That's why I couldn't kill her." And then Lady Homelander said, "Please don't ever date another woman." And I said, "I won't because I love you, Janice, and I'm married to you." And then I said, "Now let's go see if we can recruit your father." And then I teleported in front of Soldier Boy's cryo chamber. Me and Homelander stood there for a minute and then I said, "I need to erase some of his unpleasant memories because if I don't he will try to kill me again, and he will also have a type of blaster that comes from his chest and it can take away our powers, and when I open this chamber I want you to move away from me because he will try blast me but his blast won't work on me and I might not have to erase his memories at all." And then Homelander said, "No, you just told me it will take away your powers." And then I said, "No, it won't because I had powers long before I took the V1 serum." And then Homelander said, "No, let's just leave him here, Desmond, please, I just want to go home." And then I smiled at Homelander warmly and I said, "Everything is going to be okay, I promise." And she said, "No, don't." And I turned the valve and I opened the door, and when Ben saw, he screamed, "Desmond, you son of a bitch." And then immediately he rushed me and tried to kill me, but I was too fast for him, and then he punched me several times but he hurt his hands and he said, "You fucking bastard." And then I said, "Wait, Clara Vought is alive and so is your brother. I brought them back." And then Soldier Boy said, "Bullshit." And then Homelander stepped forward and said, "It's true, your brother and Clara is alive and he brought them back."